Crazy. So we learn about Black Gemara, we're up to Daf Nun Aleph Amud Aleph, and the Mishnah is learning different takonos olam. And the last thing we learned was a machlekes as to why we say that you don't extract for Paris, or for example, if somebody was a victim in his field, stolen, and he went and retrieved his field, and the person who purchased the field goes back to the vendor to collect. He only collects the actual property from the chasam shabadim, but not any improvements on the property or fruits. And we gave two reasons, actually, an argument. Reb Chanina said because there's no fixed amount. Anything without a fixed amount, you cannot collect, because how in the world can they protect themselves or the buyers? Or because it's not recorded, it's not written. We are saying that, what do you mean not written? According to Rashi, means a milva al peh. According to Tais, it's definitely not a milva al peh, because the milva al peh never collects from shabadim. We mean like these fixed things are giving parnos, a dowry for the kids, and zaynas, food, and so on. So Masi, we're up to the Gemara over here, but 8-9 lines to the top of the page. Masi Rav Huna Bamanoich. What happened was a man married this woman who already had a child, and he promised this woman that for 5 years he is going to feed this child. And then they got divorced and had a kid of his own with her. Then they got divorced, and she married somebody else who also promised to take care of the kid for 5 years. So both of them have to keep the promise. One of them gives her food, and the other one, this stepdaughter, and the other one gives her money. So what happens if both of them die? Both of them die. And now you have the stepdaughter, and each one has a natural daughters. So says the Gemara, both husbands die. The natural daughters collect everything from the unencumbered estate. But the stepdaughter, so we're continuing here talking about, is the problem has to be written, or if it's and that's why you don't collect the chasam shabadim, land that was sold, or is it because it was not a fixed amount and therefore you don't collect from the chasam shabadim, only from the freed up assets? So we're saying a case here where a man committed to his wife that the stepdaughter he'll take care of, another man the same thing, and now they both died. So the natural daughters, we'll see, can collect their mezainis only from unencumbered estate, from the chasam lechayrin, but the stepdaughter can collect even from the chasam shabbat. Why? Make a commitment. The stepfather committed to the mother that he's going to take care of the daughter, so it's like a regular bal chayv. And a bal chayv can collect from the chasam shabbatim. Now the problem here is it wasn't recorded, it's not written down, there's no shtar, number one, and number two, it's not a fixed amount. So the Gemara, we know what we're talking about over here. We're talking about they actually made a kinyan, and Rashi learns, no, the mother committed to the father, they made some kind of transaction, and even though it's not recorded, as if it's recorded. Now, what is the reason why the stepdaughter you can collect? Because it's a fixed amount. He said 5 years. So we want to bring an eye from here that the issue here is not whether it's written or not written, like the first opinion, but rather like Chaninu says, the issue here is whether there's a fixed amount or whether it's never ending. Never ending, then we make a takana. We need to protect the buyer's rights. But and over here we see clearly, because it's only for 5 years, she can collect the chasam shabadim, even though it's not recorded. The Gemara says, Rashi learns kinyan, stam kinyan like siva aimer. Whenever you make a kinyan, probably you record it. Teja says, so the Gemara should have just said it was written down. So the Teja learns that a kinyan is stronger than a recorded, because then people talk about it, because that's serious. So we're trying to make a differentiation between the natural daughters and the stepdaughter. That means they both went through the same exercise, and yet there's a difference. So the daughters also, you made a kinyan. No, how come the natural daughters cannot collect mishabadim? Where it says, you made the kinyan only for your stepdaughter, not for your own daughters. My piska, what are you learning that way? We're trying to say in the Brisa to draw a contrast between your natural daughters and your stepdaughter. But if you did different things for them, of course they're different. Not because this is your natural and this is your stepdaughter, because here you made a kinyan and you didn't. So that's not shot in the Brisa. So we answer, Bas Ishtay the Havi B'Shas Kinyan, your stepdaughter was alive when you married her mother. So when you made a kinyan, you promised she was alive. Therefore, Mahanya la kinyan. You made a kinyan both. Or here the kinyan is meaningful. Your natural daughter obviously wasn't around yet when you married the mother. So therefore, the kinyan didn't have the same significance. The kinyan doesn't help in order to collect Moshabadim. Says the Gemara, what do you mean? If we're trying to draw a parallel between the two, that has to be exactly the same case. So that means the natural daughters also, they were around at the time of the kinyan, and yet for your natural daughter, she cannot collect Mishavadim. But your stepdaughter can. What's going on here? So he says as follows. Mila as kinyan, how's it possible that your natural daughter was around when you married her mother? And we're not going to think of a way that was done the wrong way. Mila as kinyan must be also including a case. How's it possible? By natural daughter. You marry the mother, had a child, divorced her, and then you remarried her. But how did how did you have a stepdaughter in between? Because she was Mizana. It's loose, but she didn't marry. Because if you marry another person between, you cannot have her back. You didn't marry, it's loose. So it's the exact same case. You'd hear Kenyan works, and why not? So you must say you're right. Not because a Kenyan doesn't work. Why your natural daughter you have to provide for her because that's a Tanai in Bezin. It's a law that Bezin put into place. Every single person has to take care of the kids. Like Mahanla Kenyan, if a Kenyan doesn't work, you're usurping the authority of the Bezin. But your stepdaughter, there's no obligation to feed your stepdaughter, so therefore you make a Kenyan Mahanla Kenyan. Says the Gemara, because the Bezin said that you have to take care of your natural daughter. Therefore, if you make a Kenyan to strengthen it, it makes it worse. Now, no, you can no longer collect Mishabodin. It doesn't make sense. So you're going to say, right. We're teasing out the final conclusion. Because it's incumbent upon you to take care of your natural daughter, we assume you must have opened a bank account or somewhere. You must have given her some possessions or something to give her some confidence or a mashkin or collateral to make sure that she gets paid. On the contrary, because it's such a strong obligation, we think that you already gave it to her or you put it in the hand of a third party. That's why they cannot collect Mishabadi, because every buyer is going to say, prove to me that your father didn't set aside some money. Okay, it's impossible because even if you don't know about it, it means it doesn't happen. Mashenkin for your stepdaughter, which you're not really chayiv to, you're not obligated really to take care of her. We're not going to be choishes litzrali, at least not for as far as the buyers are concerned. Toshma coming here. So we have this machlekes between Rab Chanina who says the reason is because there's no fixed amount, or the other reason gave it because it's not recorded, and Ula says because it's not written down. Says the Gemara Toshma coming here. Rab Nosson says as follows. A Masai, when do we say, for example, the field was stolen and the nignav goes to the purchaser and says, I'm taking, I'm collecting my field, and then the purchaser turns around to the vendor and says, reimburse me because you promised, you gave me a chayis, reimburse me. When do we say that? A Masai bisman shekodem mekhoy. That the second shasheni l'shvacha shorishim. If the second person, the first person is the guy who lost the field to the nigzel, so we'll call him the nigzel's field. When the first person already had the improvements in his field by the time the second person bought it. So when the second person bought it, it was already a lien, and not only on the field but all the improvements around the fruits growing there. Okay, so then the first guy can go to the second guy and say, reimburse me for everything, including my paytas. Sorry, when do we say that he cannot go to Mishabodim, has to go back to the vendor, is that the second guy bought it before the first guy had his improvement. So therefore, when the second guy bought it, there was nothing there. So but if the Nigzel's field already had all of his improvements before the second was bought it, go even the Chasim Shabbat. Alma was a whole new reason. This is Harashma. It's a whole new reason there. Nothing to do whether it was recorded or not recorded. Nothing there was a fixed amount or not. The question only is if it was there b'shas b'isa when you wrote the shtar to the second guy. Alma mishun lekadimu. It has to do with kadim. So Rashi learns that this seems to be a third opinion. It's a question on Ula and Rab Chanina because nothing to do with being written, nothing to do with being a fixed amount. But Taisus learns that this accords with Rab Chanina about a fixed amount. In other words, because it was already there, the improvements, we know how much we're talking about. So this is only a question on Ula. But you're right. Tanya, we learned Ein Moitziin. In fact, the machlekes is of Ula, and Rab Chanina is a machlekes Tanaim. The time we learned Ein Moitziin, we don't extract the achilas paid, the fruits, or the improvements on the property, or Muslim Isha. What's that? Oh, yeah. Yeah. Ulama Zaisha. or to provide for a woman, v'habban as a daughter, is menachasim shabadim. You don't collect shabadim, then tikkun olam. And what's the tikkun olam? If you say it's not recorded. This conforms with ula in the name of the shlokish. He says that's tikkun olam. Mahalacha. If it's not recorded, you cannot collect. What do you mean tikkun olam? Because it's not a fixed amount. They don't know how to protect themselves and whatever it is. So the machlekes of ula and chanin is actually machlekes the tonight. And as the Rashi learns, this is tikkun olam because it's not recorded. This is halacha. Taisa says no. Tikkun olam means you're trying to help the person out. How are you helping the person out by recording it? It's still not a fixed amount. If it's not a fixed amount, the guy can never. Okay. Then the Mishnah says as well, if you find a lost object and the owner of the object says, hey, you gave back $50, you found there's $100 there. Swear, we know that if a partial is missing, you have to swear in the balance. We learn from a pasuk by a shamer, ki who's there. We'll learn Baba Kama. Ki who's there. This who is third party, distant, and there is this. I mean, part of it I might say yes, I owe part of it, but who the other part I totally deny. Maidah mixes you have to swear, and therefore you should have to swear that you only found $50. But then people will stop returning lost objects. What Mali What do I have? Trying to help you out? You're gonna make me shut me to Bezdin and make you swear what I need it for. Okay, so therefore it's a tikkun olam. Comes along Rabbi Yitzchak. Rabbi Yitzchak says Shnei Kisim. Now this is the Rashba has an expression there. There are many different ways of learning Pshat the Gemara. When our tradition says there are many different ways, okay, we'll follow Rashi. It makes it easier. So Rabbi Yitzchak says as follows: what happens? There were this person lost two wallets tied together. Now wallets don't walk away from each other. And the person who found the finder brings back one wallet. And the person who lost it says, hey, there were two wallets there. So the you would think according to Mishnah, this is Meishav Aveda, you're returning a lost object. So because in this case, the person is saying Bori is definitely my what do you call it? It's definitely my there should be two kiss in there. Therefore, you have to swear Maidah Mixes. The Chayda argues with our Mishnah. Sorry? That's our Mishnah, Tikkun Olam. But Rabbi Yitzchak says in this case here with the guys at Bori, definitely there should be two wallets there. No, but he argues the Mishnah. Simple as that. He argues the Mishnah. And who does he argue with? And who does he side with? We'll see in a minute. That's how Rashi learns. Rashba and most of them have a big problem with Rashi, like you just say. It's an open-ended thing. You could make sure of it. They learn talking about the guy saw him from the roof picking up one of the walls. I couldn't see if he picked up the other one. But because I saw you picking up one, I'm demanding from you, there should have been two wallets there. That's different in the case of our Mishnah. Because in our Mishnah, it's talking about there's no body. I'm saying there's $100 there. I don't know if when you were there, maybe somebody already stole $50. I have no idea. But so there's like a shema. So Meishav Aveda. But over here, it's almost like a bori because I saw you picking up one of them. The same thing with the cow. I saw you with two cows tied together, and I saw you taking one of them. So it's a much stronger demand than Stam the Velterai. But Rashi learns no. I didn't say anything. I'm just saying that it's almost like a bori because if you found one, where's the other one? You found me two wallets that are tied together. The guy says, I only found one. Nishba, he has to swear. Why? Because it makes sense. The other one should have been there as well. But you found there were two cows tied together. There's only one cow. You don't have to swear. What's the difference? My time of wife. Shvarim, the cows, they're strong. They can pull away from each other. They could rip the part of the rope like time together. So my time that you means nothing. Wallows don't walk away from each other. So if you picked up one, where's the other one? What happens if he says to him, Shnei Shvarim, Keshuri Matzasi, I found two cows that were tied together. And the other guy says, Matzasi, you're right, I found it, but I gave one of them back to you. So now I only owe you for one. So what happens then? Nishba, he has to swear. In this case, he has to swear because that's mamish a case of Maidah Mixes. That's Maidah Mixes. Because the loser, the one who lost it, is saying the body. I know that you owe me two, and this guy and you never gave any back, and he says I gave you back one. Rabbi Yisrael, so I'm going to ask a question, like you asked. Rabbi Yisrael, Leslie, Hamaitzi Mitzia Lo Yishav Nedikin Olam. Rabbi Yisrael doesn't agree with the sentiment of our Mishnah that, if you return a lost object, you don't have to swear. How come he's making them swear? He actually is agreeing with Rabbi Lezer ben Yaakov. Now, Rabbi Lezer ben Yaakov is not talking about Rabbi Yisrael's case, but we're drawing an assimilate for Rabbi Lezer ben Yaakov. Now, we already had this Gemara in Ksuvos, and this is the story. The Tanya, Rabbi Lezer ben Yaakov said something in the Brayse, and the Gemara is going to tease out what Rabbi Lezer ben Yaakov actually meant. But we learned the concept of Moedah B'Miktzas. So Moedah B'Miktzas is that somebody comes along and it's Moedah a part of your demand, the part is not Moedah. And we'll also have all this and bring above Mitzvah. And we learn from Pasuk Ki Hu Zeh. If you say Ki Hu Zeh, you have to swear. If you say Hu and Zeh, part you admit, but you don't swear. Now, Rabbah said the famous thing, what's shot? Why do you swear? Every Moedah B'Miktzas has a mitzvah. Every Moedah B'Miktzas has a mitzvah. You could have denied the whole thing, and if you would have denied the whole thing, you'd be potter because let him prove the onus is on the person. Yeah, so we answered that it's a migid hazer. This is how Rashi is. It's a facialist, a little bit different. But it's a migid hazer. It's a migid that requires chutzpah, because you don't have the chutzpah to look at your lenders in his face and say, "Hey, you never lent me the money. The guy helped you out in time of need, and now you turn around to him, you never lent me money." So I don't have the chutzpah, but at least I can wiggle my way out of part of the loan. So therefore, there's no migui over here. The Torah says you have to pay. So then I'm just giving you how Rashi learns the rest of the Gemara, and then we'll come to it. So we think the guy's a liar. So what's going to help us make him swear? If you suspect that he's going to be a ganef, won't he swear false as well? That's how Rashi learns. Pesach totally disagrees. He holds that the Gemara concludes above the so people are much more scared of a shvur than stealing money because saying Hashem's name, and it's a religious experience rather than money's business. Yeah. So the Gemara says, really, he's not even a liar. He just doesn't have the money. So he's trying to delay the stall. So he will pay half now. When he has the rest, he'll pay that. Okay, so that's the constant Moedah B'Miktzas. So what's the argument of Lezer ben Yaakov and the Chachamim? The following case. The time you learned Rabbi Yaakov, sometimes other nishbal times after sometimes if you admit to something, it'll cause you to swear. Ketzad, what do you mean? Your father, I owe your father $100. The Hachalti Prat, I already came back 50. I volunteered this information, but I'm a Moedah B'Miktzas. Says Rabbi Yaakov. Okay, Rabbi Yaakov says you got to swear. Here's an example where you have to swear based on your owner's mission. The Chachamim say, the potter. He volunteered information. He's a Meishav Aveda. And he's treated like a Meishav Aveda because nobody demanded it from him. He is potter. That's how we're learning. So now we need to understand Rabbi Yaakov. It's our Mishnah clearly says that if I come over with information that incriminates myself, then whatever I say, you should believe me. Because why would I put myself in that situation in the first place? So I'm going to ask Rabbi Lezer ben Yaakov. Lesley, doesn't he agree with the principle Meishav Aveda Potter? So Gemara says, Amarav, this is not really Meishav Aveda. There's a little bit of a claim. By who? The person died, and one of the orphans, who's a minor, said, I think you owe my father, you owe my father money. So there is somebody claiming here. So Rabbi Yaakov said, this is not mamish, a case of Meishav Aveda. Meishav Aveda, nobody's claiming anything. I volunteered. Here, somebody made a claim. Says the Gemara, cotton medium ashosh yizbei. Cotton is no validity. I mean, if a person doesn't want to pay, you have no issue whatsoever looking the cotton in the face and saying, how are we talking about it? But now we learned, that a cotton cannot make you swear. Well, the answer is, my cotton, you know what cotton means? Godel. It means an adult. So why? An adult does make you swear. So why in the world we call him the cotton? I might call it cotton because Gabi Miladov, we had already yesterday, regarding his father's affairs, cotton. He's a cotton. Oh yeah. So what are we saying right now? So there is a claim here. It's not a Meishav Aveda outright because there is somebody claiming, but he doesn't really know that much. He's just claiming, and Rabbi Yaakov says that's already called Moedah B'Miktzas. And the Chachamim say that's still called a Meishav Aveda. Says the Gemara, okay, but the wording is totally wrong. What did Rabbi Yaakov say? That sometimes your own admission can make you swear, triggers a shvur. This is your own admission. There's like somebody claiming from you. So you want to ask, what do you mean your own admission? An adult came over and said, you owe my father money. That's not called tainus atzmai. So what answers, you're right. What he meant was tainus achedim, somebody is taking a claim, but the haidas atzmai. It's your admission that's called bringing on this shvur. So that's an obvious question. Every Moedah B'Miktzas, forget the case of a person died as orphan. What's a Moedah B'Miktzas? The guy said, you owe me $100, and I admitted to 50. And my admission of 50 is triggered the shvur on the balance. So what's Rabbi Yaakov saying? Tainas Atzmai, every single issue, every time there's a controversy or there's an argument, is exactly that. There's Tainas Achedim or Dos Atzmai. Isn't that how every single argument is? That this guy makes a claim, and I admit to part of it. What's going on here? The Gemara says here. Ella, but the Rabbah they're arguing in the Rabbah. Rabbah says, why do you swear by the Mikvah? You have a Mikvah, you could have denied the whole thing. So we're answering that there is no Mikvah. What do you mean there's no Mikvah? Because it's a Mikvah the Hazard. It's a chutzpah to look somebody in the face, I owe nothing. So what about in the case where there's no Hazard to say nothing? I could have just looked you in the eyes and say, I don't know what you're talking about, I owe you nothing. Instead, I admitted to part of it. What happens then? Do we say, oh, in this case, there's no way to mix it anymore because he has a mitzvah, he could have denied the whole thing? Or do we say, you still have to swear in the rest? So what the story is follows. They're arguing with Rabba's explanation. No, but Rabba said, if an imam, let's tell you, why did the Torah say Moed makes a tiny? You shove. Why did the Torah say that Moed makes a tiny? So we're going to go back like this. Forget the Godel. We're going to go back to the original case of a cotton. When the Mishnah says that a cotton cannot, you don't have to worry about a cotton. That's talking about if the cotton is asking you about money that he said, I lent you. If a cotton claims I lent you money or I did something to you, ignore it. But if a cotton comes along and says, my father lent you, that's where the machlek of Rabbi Yaakov. Rabbi Yaakov says that here there's a bit of a claim, and therefore it does not fall in the realm of Meishav Aveda. And the Chacham is saying, no, you could have just easily denied it. There's no claim there whatsoever. It's Mamash Meishav Aveda. Now, what are they arguing about? So the Gemara, Rabbi says, why do you swear by the mixes? He's Chazaka ain't made part of it. He doesn't have a chutzpah to deny the whole thing. So therefore, just because he's made the part of it, he's not really a general Meishav Aveda. He had no breda. He couldn't say, I owe you nothing, because he doesn't have a chutzpah to look the guy in the eye and say, I owe you nothing. So he admitted to the most, I guess, credible way that he can think of, that he can get out of some of that at least. If so, how can you trust him at all? If he's a ganef, so first of all, he would have, if he could have denied the whole thing, he would have. He doesn't have the chutzpah. So therefore, he's not a Meishav Aveda when he admits to part of the loan. Not because he's a nice guy. He just doesn't have the chutzpah to lie any further than that. He's a ganef. How can you trust him for sure? It's not Ashland. Really should have been made to the whole thing. You know why he wasn't made to the whole thing? He's trying to procrastinate, trying to delay till he has money. Somebody thinks, when I get to money, we'll put on a pay. He's the Amar Achman, the Torah says, to help the guy out a little bit, to be honest and tell the truth. Place a shvu on him in order to be made in the whole thing. So the only reason why you swear made mixes is because you don't have the chutzpah to lie. He's a blessing. Yaakov holds loishna boy, even loishna b'nai. You want to have the chutzpah to lie the son either, and therefore there's no. This is a normal case of made mixes because you can't say, oh, if he was a liar, you could have denied the whole thing. You cannot deny the whole thing, not to the father, not to the son. No, made the mix. You have to swear. It's not a meishav aveda because there's somebody claiming and you don't have the chutzpah. And here la meishav avedu. The Rabbanan Savri, who the boy who the maze, you don't have the chutzpah to lie to him. But to the son, you could have lied. Since you could have denied the whole thing and you made it part of it. Now, what's going on here? Why do Chachamim say to the son you would have a chutzpah to the and Rabbi Yaakov says no, you wouldn't? There's a machlekes Rashi says halal pshat, and maybe that machlekes is exactly the machlekes these two tonight. Why don't you have a chutzpah? What ain't other maze telling me machlekes? Why not? The machlekes is the reason is because he knows the truth, and you know the person knows the truth. How do you have the goal to lie such a person when you know that he knows the truth? Or the guy was so nice to you. How do you have the chutzpah to somebody when you were in need, help you and just look him in the eye and say, "Baba mice never happened." How do you have the chutzpah? So if it's a question of knowing the truth, then the son doesn't bother you. How does the son know the truth? Then boy, who ain't amazed. To the father, you don't have the chutzpah because he knows that he's the one who lent it to you. But Benai, you have no problem saying it never happened. You weren't there. How do you know? It never happened. So that's why the Chachamim say, boy, who ain't amazed, I'll be Benai amazed. But Rabbi Yaakov says it's not because they know the truth. It's because they were so kind to you and they helped you in time of need. How do you have the chutzpah? So the son is standing there in the place of the father, people who help you out in time of need. Just like boy who ain't amazed, just like you have no chutzpah against the father, nor do you have the chutzpah to lie to the son as well. So therefore, Rabbi Yaakov says, you're not a Meishav Aveda here. You just don't have the chutzpah. You don't have the goal to look somebody who helped you out, a family who helped you out in time of need. It's not just a person. It's the whole notion of lending you money. So maybe that machlekes Rashi Tosfos can explain this machlekes. What does Rabbi Yitzchak? So what you see from here is when there's a claimant, even if it's weak, according to Rabbi Lezer and Yaakov, you're no longer a Meishav Aveda. The Rabbanan say a weak claim is nothing. Go back to Rabbi Yitzchak's case. Nothing to do with this, but Rabbi Yitzchak's case is when the guy said, "Oh, the two wallets." Does he know for a fact there were two wallets there? Whichever way you learn, Rashi or the Rashba or the Shonim, he doesn't know for a fact. Because if he would have said, "I saw you taking two wallets," it's a whole different story. There's no longer Meishav Aveda. That's mamash a case of Moed Mixes. He either saw nothing, like Rashi learns, or he saw you taking one wallet. It's still not a strong claim because you didn't see him take the second wallet. So that's a weak teveya, a weak plaintiff. And according to Rabbi Yaakov, a weak plaintiff is enough to take it out of the realm of Meishav Aveda and put you under Moed Mixes. You have to swear. And the Chachamim say no, a weak claim is Meishav Aveda because easily denied it. People have no problem, denying a weak claim. Okay, we'll stop over here.